Greetings, everyone. The purpose of this presentation is to show you a short example of pseudocode. This video will help you with assignment 1 on HBase, part 2, if you choose to do the case study option. So here we're looking at the case study about Sport and Health, which is a fitness club, and it was founded in 1973, and there are multiple locations across Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia area. And Sport and Health has a high volume of members who are doing the personal strength training workouts, and the progress is being tracked in multiple text files, and there are multiple text files at each location. So here we are looking at the two records where you have member information, which is member ID, member name, and member since is a year when the member joined the club. And here we're looking at the weights that people use to perform an exercise, right? Some exercises can be performed without the weight. If this is the case, then the weight is a body weight, right? And here, this is a second member, and the second member chose to work out with two trainers. So in addition to member ID, member name, and the member since, and in addition to exercises, we are tracking two trainers. See that? So let's look at some business rules. We are tracking a member's exercise routine that may have many exercises. It does not matter in which orders the exercises are done. And for each exercise, we just track the weights. We don't track the duration, and we don't track the number of sets for the purpose of this example. We only track the weight and store it in pounds, or if a member chose to do the exercise without the weight, then it's a body weight. Right? The exercises in a regimen can be performed in any order. So there is no such a thing as exercise 1, exercise 2, exercise 3. The exercises are subject to change. It means at any time, I can add another exercise that I'm currently not doing. Like for example, in here, I could add something like oblique crunches, right? Or I can add something like mountain climbers exercise at any time, or at any time I can stop doing push-ups, or at any time I can change my weight. I can either progress or digress, right? So a member may work out independently, or a member may have one or more personal trainers. Your task here is to theoretically set up the searchable database that will have millions of records from all clubs location. And it should have a flexibility to add exercises. In other words, when I'm adding the new member, I should be able to add an exercise easily that nobody did before, right? So let's look at what overall the high level of the table structure that we're gonna have. I'm going to have three column families, right? Remember that HBase table must have at least one column family. In this case, we're gonna have three because I'm gonna track the information about the member. I'm gonna track the weights that we could add on the fly, right? And I'm gonna track the trainers. In this particular scenario, I want each exercise, right? I want the weight column family to have a column for exercise because I want to be able to query which weights are used by an exercise, right? So this is just a high level conceptual view in here. This is what the data is going to look like after inserting the first record and after inserting the first two records. So column family member, right? It's going to have member ID, member name, member since, weight. I'm going to have a separate column for exercise, and I'm going to name my column with an exercise name. That way, when I have to run a query to pull weights used for an exercise, I'm just going to use something like column name contains the exercise name, okay? And this is a trainer column family. And I've got two trainers. See this? This is a sparse table because Elena is not doing tricep dips. So this is just left out, right? This is not populated. Another thing to keep in mind is that suppose that I have Dave Linish and he's the only member who is doing lunges. When Dave Linish is removed, if Dave Linish is removed from the club, I don't want to lose lunges exercise if he's the only one doing this exercise. So that's one reason we are adding the exercises as a column, not as a row, but as a column, right? Because I want to be able to add new exercise easily, right? I'm not tracking any information about the specific exercise, such as description and target muscles. I'm just using exercise name here. So I don't need to worry about any primary foreign key relationship. It's not a relational database, remember that. So now let's talk about pseudocode. What is a pseudocode? Pseudocode describes the program steps. It's just a logic, and it's meant to be read by a human, by a layperson. We're gonna write it in English, and the pseudocode does not have specific syntax. This is not Java. This is not C++. This is not R. This is not Python. This code is not going to be read on machine, right? So let's look at this here. For example, this is how we're going to parse two sport and health records above. First step is to create table with 3 column families called member, weight, and trainer. And of course, each table is going to have a row key. In this case, we're going to set the row key based on the sequence, right? We're going to use sequence. First row to be imported is going to have key 1. Next row is going to have 2. Next row is going to have 3. This is just based on the order in which we add the records. The text files have more than 2 records, but we just gave 2 for this example, for this short example. So we create table, right? It does not matter. It's just in English. It says in English to create table, and it's going to have these 3 column families, right? Next, we're going to parse the first row. We're going to parse the first row. This is the row key, right? We enter 1 into the row key. Next, we're going to look at, we have the member information, right? So this is what? Member ID, it's coming from this record. And then we're taking the first name, right? And we're taking member since. And then we are creating a column for exercise, and we are populating the weights. Now, Yelena chose to work out independently, so there is nothing goes into the trainer data. Here, this is a second record, right? So I just say put workout row 2. This is the second row, and this is the row key. And here is an information about the member. Member one, member name, member since, weight, and etc. Right? Because Yelena, she did not do the dead row, but I should be able to easily add the dead row for lineage. So that's the whole idea here, column-oriented database. I'm just adding a column on the fly to the weight column family. See that? That's it. And same thing with the trainers. This is how it's going to look like. Next thing, you need to verify the table structure, which is a describe workout. That's a command. And here, we also need to do the row count. This is a verification. Now, here are the potential queries that I'm going to run. I may have forgotten to tell you that there is a concept called versioning. Each time when we update the weight, a new version of the value is created. And for the purpose of this exercise, we want to track the past weights that the member used. So we are creating the new version. Then one of the queries that we could write is, how much weight a person used for an exercise, we want to look at the history. For example, Elena, as she gets stronger, she could upgrade her squat weight to 45, right? We can look at the history of weight changes for an exercise. And to do that, we just run in the query, right? We just pull in the data where column name is the squat. That's it, right? So we can look at the history data, right, at the versioning, how the value was changing with time. So that's called the progression. We can also look at the progress that member made, if the member was working without trainer or if a member was working with trainer. Then we could also look at the dominant exercise, just getting the count of, see this count of rows where this value is populated. See this? And that's mostly it, right? Now, what I mean by the digression is that sometimes an individual might develop a health condition and he or she may not be able to lift as much weight. So the weight could be decreasing, okay? Now, so one thing to keep in mind is that this exercise, this video here is to help you get started with assignment 1. It's not intended to replace the course readings. You still need to do the readings in the course content. And please, please, please do not hesitate to ask questions if anything is unclear. All right, everybody, thanks for watching and have a nice day.